intentionless reality. The structure of non-belief. Dwelling in the here and now, I replace my ego with sights and sounds, unbeknownst to anyone besides me.
The precious golden garland of meditation instructions. Namo Guru. The bodily form of the great master, known as the lotus-born, was unchanging like the sun. His speech was unceasing like a stream, and his mind unobstructed like the sky. His qualities were beyond increase and decrease, like a river, and his activity unimpeded, like the wind. His realization was equal to that of the Buddhas, and he taught the Dharma in conformity with the 6 classes of beings. Lady Sogyo, the princess of Kachin, served this Dharmakaya, who was as famous as the sun on the Jambu continent. While he was residing at the juniper ridge of crystal pearls, she pleased him in thought, word, and deed. Then she made the following request. Great Master, what is the prelude to meditation practice for a devoted person who desires to meditate? The Master replied, the prelude for meditation practice is to gather the accumulations, receive the oral instructions, cut the ties of attachment, and collect necessities. Tidy your dwelling, which should be uplifting and of an appropriate size. Having done so, form the compassionate attitude of bodhicitta resolve to establish all sentient beings in enlightenment. In your dwelling, arrange a stuffed cushion with a clean filling of cotton, wool, or the like. Rid yourself of bodily excretions, such as feces and urine. From your throat and nose, expel mucus. Then assume the cross-legged posture. Place your hands in equanimity, the body straight and upright, your head neither bowed nor bent, your eyes lowered in the direction of the nose, and the teeth and lips in their ordinary way. In short, train in meditation while letting your three doors be in their natural state. Lady Sogyul asked the Master, how should one keep the mind during meditation? The Master replied, while meditating, let your body and mind relax. Since there is nothing whatsoever to be analyzed, the stream of dualistic mind and the mental states arising from it are interrupted. You do not have to deliberately halt them, while neither keeping nor rejecting anything. Let go of all mental activity. Don't think of anything, and don't imagine anything. Your nature is aware, just as it is. Without moving toward anything, let be in your natural state. When remaining in this way, the knower and the known are not seen as separate. So don't think of the object as being there, or the knower as being here. And do not conceive of something other than those two. Since you neither pursue an object there, nor try to stop a thought here, you can allow mind itself to be pure, lucid, and awake, without needing to dwell on anything whatsoever. The flaws that hinder this are excitement, drowsiness, and deep-rooted beliefs. Excitement means the mind's act of reaching out towards objects. The way to adjust this is to relax your body and mind while keeping your attention collected. Settle it again and again. If you still chase after different thoughts, repeatedly direct your attention toward this jumpy mind. If you're unable to do that, the thoughts continue to reach out. Investigate this outward movement that is like a cloud in the sky. Where does it come from? Where does it move toward? And where does it remain?
Where are your thoughts coming from? Where do they go to? Where do they remain?
By exploring like this, allow the thought movements that arise from mind to subside again by themselves. As these thought movements are empty, there is no need to tightly restrict or deliberately prevent them. This is the instruction in dissolving excitement and the movement of thoughts. Drowsiness is like being in a dark room or having your eyes closed. To correct this, refresh yourself with activities such as spiritual practices, reflection, or the like. To refresh by means of samadhi, visualize yourself to be space. Visualize your spine to be a stack of chariot wheels. And imagine your mind to be like the sky. To refresh by means of instruction, meditate while observing a sense object, or while just keeping the senses wide open. These are the instructions in clearing up drowsiness. stillness, as when your mind becomes hazy or absent-minded, as if affected by an evil spirit. If that happens, set the practice aside and return to meditating after a while. This is the instruction in getting rid of mindlessness. Deep-rooted beliefs have three faults. Since the training in Dharmakaya is supposed to be habituating oneself by not focusing and not fixating on anything whatsoever, it is a fault if you hold a rigid belief, let alone all the contradictory concepts such as it is such and such and it isn't such and such, eternity and void, antidotes to accept in order to reject, or the like. It is also a fault to harbour even a tiny speck of a notion or belief that all these things are unreal appearances, or all things are inconceivable, so I should meditate on not holding them in mind. This is the instruction in clearing away rigid beliefs. Asked the Master, what types of experiences of realization arise from meditation training? The Master replied, since samsara has no concrete substance, while training, all the various types of labels, such as the appearance or disappearance of things, or that they neither arise nor cease, and so forth, are just momentary labels used to indicate that fact. So as you train in this way, you come to realize that these things of concrete substance have no verifiable identity whatsoever. And since samsara has no concrete substance, it is not something that can be discarded, nor is nirvana something that can be obtained. You also come to realize that these two are merely labels, and that, according to the definitive meaning, none of the phenomena of samsara and nirvana are in fact real at all. actuality, beyond the domain of ideas, not merely in words, but decisively from deep within your mind. There are, however, people who, without realizing this, use the phrase, "None of these things ever arose," and then train in holding the idea that all this is emptiness. To do so is known as a mere meditation mood. By keeping such an idea in mind, you will not gain certainty. After realizing things to be like this, do not focus on ideas of them being in any particular manner. Things may be experienced in an ordinary way, but you will not find a shred of a concrete, more tangible mind that can be seen or held as a focus. Since no impression of its nature can be experienced, nor anything be perceived by a perceiver, the thought, its nature is such and such, doesn't even occur. Nevertheless, you have still not abandoned the tendencies for deluded thinking. At this point, all things are seen with their own individual features, though evanescent and insubstantial, like the colours that appear before your eyes on a smooth surface of water. Besides that, there is no involvement in concepts of it is this or it is that. And you see the identity of this knowing mind as clearly and evidently as the sky. This is the time when you lose track of yourself, feeling as if you are the sky itself. Or you may feel scared or nervous because of seeing the perceiver and perceived as separate, and you no longer want to remain in this state. Seeing yourself as simply name and form, you don't entertain the idea of being a real sentient being. After rising from this state, when you briefly investigate things while engaging in daily activities, you experience only a vivid state of seeing no concrete things. You don't feel as if you are really walking when walking. And there is no sense of eating when you are eating food. point, when you investigate things, you realize that there is neither something to accept nor to reject, that things and I are nothing but deceptive, magical illusions. Since you see everything to be like space, you don't see yourself as being you and others as being others. When closing your eyes and letting the mind face inward, all objects become slightly vague. The flow of thought is interrupted, and there are no appearances. So the mind's lucidity gains a space-like quality. You don't sense that you have a body, nor do you notice the movement of your breath. The state of mind at this time resembles the unmoving brightness of a mirror turned towards the sky at dawn. It remains totally lucid, free of any focus or concept, while it is clearly evident to itself. This continues unchanged throughout day and night. From time to time, the stream of knowing gradually turns more solid, but then gently the solidity vanishes again. To improve on this, don't cling to being lucid or at ease. Don't focus on anything, and don't cling to anything. Simply let this state remain aware of itself. When you try to emerge from this state, it doesn't feel as if you have. And even if you do briefly emerge from it, you gently return. Due to having resolved how things are while sitting, perceive things appear in a normal fashion while you remain composed. You neither cling to nor focus upon them. If you can remain in such a state that you see even the yearning for enlightenment as an illusion, and you hold no dread of samsara, then it is known as seeing things without wavering. To develop this, cast away even a subtle form of object and thinker, including the concept that it is such and such. In other words, at first, don't suppress anything. Next, don't grasp hold of its presence. And finally, don't pursue it. Instead, allow it to rise from you and subside back into you. This ability to remain for as long as you wish is known as pliable mind, or absence of doing and striving. While composed in this way, you may investigate things that you experience, either after rising from composure or during the composure itself. However, you find that there is no need to modify an insight, nor to deliberately try to scrutinize any given perceived object. Every thought, no matter its type, is lucidly present as Dharmata. Every emotion, no matter its type, arises as Dharmata. Every pain, no matter its type, causes no harm. And every pleasure, no matter its type, brings no benefit. Your attention does not need improving because it remains freely open. Even though you are not meditating, there is no separation from Dharmata. Since there is nothing superior to this, you feel no doubt. As you see no meditation object, you find no need for mental effort. Since your attention has become Dharmata itself, it remains beyond ebb and flow. This equality is the realization of Dharmakaya. Once you gain stability in this way of being, which is not an ordinary, concrete state, it is known as the natural experience of thought-free wakefulness. Lady Sogyal asked the Master, "Which signs indicate correct training in meditation?" The Master replied, "When you have trained in the above manner for a long time, the inner and outer signs will all appear. The inner signs include not noticing the inward and outward movement of breath while remaining composed, not feeling that there is a physical body, not sensing heat, cold, or even strong pain, and feeling a natural sense of delight that is not directed at anything whatsoever. At this point, there is less clinging to any given sense object, less fixating on it is such and such, and less timidity in every regard. Selfishness, likes and dislikes, worries, the 8 worldly concerns, and other types of thinking all become fewer and less pronounced. Until these signs have manifest, you must try your utmost to become in accord with them. You might also have some minor miraculous powers, clairvoyance of others' minds, and the like. All these are the inner signs. The outer signs include seeing light shining in your body, or seeing various lights, colours, or shapes in mid-air. Seeing the bodily forms of Buddhas and other noble beings, hearing their voices, and seeing their gestures of showing you respect, or that they give you teachings, predictions, and so forth. Clinging to these occurrences and believing in their lasting reality entails the flaw of becoming interrupted by Mara. When you neither cling to nor believe in them, they indicate good qualities. Lady Sogyal asked the Master, "What kind of daily activities should one undertake after rising from the state of composure?" The Master replied, "After rising from the above-mentioned state of composure, there are 2 ways of training. First, the training that accords with insight is to trust that everything you experience, you yourself, as well as outer and inner things, are all illusory appearances, like in a dream. Keep this trust in mind during the 4 types of daily activities, no matter what you participate in or enjoy. However your body feels, train so that you neither suppress that feeling nor hold it in mind. In all activities of thought, word and deed, whatever they may be, train in holding no focus. The training that accords with method is to cultivate an illusory compassion for illusory sentient beings. And if it doesn't hamper your meditation state, then perform various actions to help them. Make vast aspirations, such as the aspiration of noble conduct. Discern between good and evil, and carry out various virtuous actions. But it wouldn't belong to the higher vehicles, nor would it be the state of equality, if at any point you engaged in virtuous actions while holding them to be real. So realize that you and all things are like a magical illusion. You should exert yourself in gathering the accumulations and purifying the obstructions until you have attained the confidence of equality, in which you behold no substance of an accumulation to be gathered or an obscuration to be purified. Within the state of composure, be free from accepting and rejecting, and remain free from the fear of samsara resulting from misdeeds, as well as the hope of nirvana resulting from virtuous actions. Even though you have attained such confidence of equality and can engage in actions free of accepting and rejecting, you should, while holding no conceptual focus, respect the ethics of vows and precepts in order to aid others in avoiding harmful actions and in adhering to virtue. In general, don't judge indulging or abstaining as being either good or evil. To engage in accepting or rejecting, or believing them to be real, is a barrier that prevents equality. Just as white and black clouds both obscure the sun. But more so, it is the fault of preventing the understanding of suchness. If you focus on precepts as either held or broken, after you have attained the confidence of equality. Don't let any emotional thought concerning success or failure, fame or gain, overtake you, and don't dwell upon them. Give up your personal shortcomings, such as foolish talk, distracting activities, and absent-mindedness. Train in being totally gentle in all physical, verbal, or mental activities. Don't ponder the flaws of others. Think instead of their good sides. If you become boastful and haughty, conceitedly thinking, I have special qualities, I have realized Dharmata, it shows that you have not realized Dharmata, so give it up. In short, since thinking is samsara and non-thought is nirvana, when the yogi remains among distractions and diversions, it is known as samsara. While remaining for even one moment in composure, free of focus, that duration is known as nirvana. Lady Sogyal asked the Master, after having practiced in this way, how does one awaken to enlightenment? The Master replied, when you have trained in the thought-free nature of Dharmata, thoughts, the causes of samsara, grow weaker and more quiet, while thought-free wakefulness becomes spontaneously present. This wakefulness is serene. Its domain of experience is utterly pure, and the three kayas and other enlightened qualities appear naturally, like rays that shine from the sun. Once you have mastered this nature, your body may remain in the world of human beings, but your mind abides at the stage of a Buddha. Once you have practiced in this way, there is no doubt that you will awaken to Buddhahood in the bardo. In other words, within your sky-like personal experience, Dharmakaya that is utterly uncreated, the sun-like Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakayas will, in the perceptions of others, work for the benefit of sentient beings, like the sun's rays. Lady Sogyal asked the Master, how should a person of average capacity train in meditation? The Master replied, upon having resolved that all things are one's own mind, a person of average capacity should focus on the ceaseless state of Dharmata that thoughts cannot grasp, and train in that state. By doing so, he or she does not need to avoid cultivating or thinking, since realization is already assured. In other words, seeing all things as mind, no other thing whatsoever is seen. In any state of mind, mind is seen. There is no separation. Dharmata is seen even when deliberately meditating. Because of knowing that thought movements are the nature of mind, no matter how Dharmata appears in the form of a thought, the nature of mind is self-evident. The notion of believing it to be any other thing is not formed. No matter how one's mind remains, and no matter what is seen, its nature is self-evident and unceasing. It is evident even when not cultivated, and it is mastered even without training in it. While remaining in this nature, no matter the details of objects that may occur, it will cause neither harm nor distraction. The perceiving of attributes by themselves is evidence of the nature of mind, since there is no arising of a conceptual frame of mind. In this way, all phenomena reveal mind, and there is no moving away from that ceaseless state. So, free from effort, one is liberated without carrying out any activity. No matter how sense objects appear, they are seen to be mind. And even if any concept or mental state does occur, one's realization never moves away from Dharmata at any time. In this way, when all phenomena are seen to be mind, and there is no slipping into a conceptual state, that is original wakefulness. For the yogi for whom this is an actuality, every sense experience whatsoever is seen to be Dharmata, and and all perceptions are therefore a form of training. Hence, all phenomena are no other than mind, and no other notion arises. As they do not arise, both objects and concepts are dharmata. Through this realization, everything is experienced as mind. As this mind is intangible, one does not regard thoughts and concepts as flaws, and one trains during the thoughts themselves. This being so, every experience, whatever one is doing or feeling, is nothing other than further training. This shows the main principle, that is the single cut of view and meditation training.
Questions, comments? It's really raining.
Descending from above. Namo Guru. The Master, Padmasambhava, whose realization is equal to the truly and completely awakened Samantabhadra, who possessed in his mind all the teachings on the view and meditation, and never strayed from the true meaning, was asked by Lady Sogyul of Kachin about all the key points for resolving the realization of descending with the view from above. The Lady of Kachin asked the Lotus Master, from where do all that appears and exists, the phenomena of samsara and nirvana, first arise? The Master replied, all that appears and exists, the phenomena of samsara and nirvana, arise from the solidified habitual
Ananda, he couldn't understand what is the meaning. He practiced hard and harder, day and night. Finally, he got the answer of the question. And then he became the third Buddha in the Buddhist community. This is a very important case in Zen Buddhism. What was really transmitted to the Mahakashyapa, the first patriarch and second Buddha from Shakyamuni Buddha, except the golden robe? The answer from the Mahakashyapa was so interesting. Ananda. Yes, sir. Break down the flagpole gate. If the question was really effective, the enlightenment is there with the answer. What really was transmitted? If you know it, you will know what is this and what is that at this very moment. If not, even though we are chasing so many pictures, forms, feelings, still it is the way to build high tower of Babel where there is no God. If someone asks me what was really transmitted from the Buddha to Mahakashyapa, I would like to say it. The hair which is growing up on the ghost fart.
Sunim, are you Buddha?
Say it louder.
Sunim, are you Buddha?
Say it louder.
Sunim, are you Buddha?
I cannot hear you.
He say, "Are you Buddha?" Sunim, are you Buddha?
The Excalibur, the very sharp sword of wisdom. We are trying to find out the sword through the whole of our life. We are chasing mountains, rivers, many countries, many religions. Finally, when we found it, what was Excalibur? It's us. This Excalibur has eyes, nose, tongue, body, mind. When you really knew it, now you have problem. How can you use it? You don't have to worry about it because what? You already have been using it from the baby until now. Use your truth in daily life without chasing any forms and names. That is the way to save us and others. That is the way to share the real heart of all sages. I have one very special story. This whole world is very funny. If we are dying, is this universe still existing or not? Every single moment, while we are chasing some point, where are others? When I was young, I'm talking young age many times, it was so inspiring to me, like everybody in every life. A master, he told me the story. Listen. A person, he put baby duck, D-U-C-K, in the narrow neck bottle, B-O-T-T-L-E. And he fed 3 times. Finally, the baby duck grew up. The baby should be out because it is dying inside a bottle. Because bottle is so limited. In this situation, how can you save the duck without transforming or breaking the bottle? When I got the question, it was hanging around me many years. You don't have to push kids. You should practice this or that. But once they hear it, they will not forget it in their life. This koan you can practice with the family members. Because what? This whole universe is a bottle, glass bottle. We are, every one of us is the duck. We are feeding 3 times.
You aren't isolated anymore. You're here.
Finally, what? We are getting old. And we are dying. How can we save ourselves from this bottle? If you can get answer, you will know what is the wisdom which is being free from life and death at this very moment. Whole life is the zone, and everybody is Buddha.
Whoa.
We should check it out.
Oh.
Where is this sound and meaning
Wah.
coming from?
Hup.
The living word is nothing.
This is concerned with the living word.
Every single affair of life, every single moment of our life is the Logos. Welcome to the Zen Dharma exchange.
Thank you, Master.
We have many questions in this life. How many answers do you have? From the center of ourselves to the outside of the universe, all are questions. But who gave answers? It's you. Only you can ask and answer. If you have a good question, it means you are very close to the answer. When we see the Bibles and the Buddha's sutras, many parts are composed with question and answers. Jesus asked, disciples answered. Disciples asked, Buddha answered. In this situation, the question and answer is creating God and real Buddha, which is very universal center of all beings. I'm respecting all practitioners and all religious factors and people. Because what? Finally, we will meet together at a certain point where we are asking and questioning. So I want to ask my wonderful colleagues here today if they have questions. Do you have any question today?
I have a question.
Oh, Chuck.
All of the world's great religions for thousands of years have taught peace and love, and yet the world is full of violence and hatred and fighting. Have the sages failed?
Where did you see all sages and all people? From where are you seeing the society and universe? That is very important. If you see that clearly, you will see what all sages see it. If not, we are chasing many factors of outside, every single moment, every day, and many lives. So, every question has the reason. I'm running every morning, early in the morning, like before the sun rising. Always I'm passing by some certain place. I saw the very impressive words up there. It was from Mr. George Washington. He said, "Let your prejudice and the local interest yield to reason." Of course, the reason is different from the reason why. But when I'm thinking of myself, it is very, very interesting. Look at us. When we are seeing this, everybody is seeing differently. But that is not just different. There is the reason why you are seeing like that. When you're asking, also there is the reason why you are asking the question. Feeling, thought, impulses, consciousnesses is the same situation. Every single moment, even in microsecond, we are having the reason why we are accepting and receiving. When we have the point of a sage's teaching, we also should get the point. Why did all sages say like that? It means, what is the real point that all sages wanted to tell us? I think that is so important to us now. If we lost it, we lost the whole point of our life. They never asked us build a bigger material temple or gather more people. What is the reason why we are doing that? But they told us the kingdom of Buddha is not here or there. It's always in you. I have my teacher, his patriarchal master, whose name is Venerable Master Myobong. One day, he told me, when I'm leaving to the America to teach people patriarchal Zen, hey, Poha Sunim, yes sir, don't try gather people. Look at ants. How many students they have? Did you see the ants? The number is not important, but the person who really understand what really Jesus told us, what really Buddha wanted to tell us is so important if the person know it. It was really inspiring me because nobody told me about that like that. Yeah. But it was still wonderful, you know. What is the purpose that we are packing bigger material desire in every day, every night? That is so ridiculous. If we are really practicing the truth in us, we should see what is questioning, what is answering first. That makes real peace and love in this world. If we lost that point, now what? We are struggling in dualistic situations. This is mine, this is yours. If you not belongs to me or to us, I will beat you. That's not good. But whatever the situation is, we should read the point, the very truth of the situation. We will see that the situation has the point. The point is the real junction of meeting all sages and us.
Yes. That's right. So important it is to not fixate on any particular practice or teacher or idea or school. You do not know the way, so you seek after many external appearances or practices to make yourself feel that you have done something right. You have to detach from yourself. Yourself is not reliable to know about the truth. If you cannot detach from yourself, then you can never know about the truth. when it comes down to it, and I'm speaking with a very some kind of I consider to be a master, mind master, and what we shared about and what we came up across is that basically everyone is schizophrenic because the notion of a separate self is schizophrenic. So the more that actually, as a modern Western people, the more that we accept our way of seeing things and our way of viewing the world and our way of living is basically schizophrenic, the more clearly we can actually start to work with our mind in a deep and meaningful way. People in the West, people in America, don't have much of a relationship with generosity concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. They don't have much of a relationship with the importance of renunciation or giving over greed. And that means that they basically have no access to the path. When we don't have that relationship of self-sacrifice, renunciation, giving, generosity, we're hopeless and helpless to see the true nature of our own minds. We look to the outward appearance to be convinced, to be swept up, to be swept in by something. Basically, the ideas that you have about yourself are worthless garbage trash. The ideas that you have about what you've been doing, what you've been experiencing, the ideas that you have about what you're doing now or what you're experiencing now, and the ideas about your intention in what you want to do in the future, and your ideas about that are basically worthless trash. And this is a trash, as they often do in Asia, to be burned. You have to burn the trash of your ideas that you have about yourself in the past, in the present, and in the future. You have to burn the trash of your ideas about the past, the present, or the future. Otherwise, your mentality, your mental structure, your psychological structure will be totally lacking in congruence. You'll always be jumping from one idea to another idea. You're kind of always seeing things in a backwards way. And then we think from that backwards view, that backwards perspective, that somehow by thinking through things or someone giving us new thoughts, we're going to be able to address the difficulties or the problems in our mind. You have to give up the importance that you're giving to the thoughts that you have in your mind, in the present, in the past, and in the future. You have to give that up. You have to accept that you are a schizophrenic lunatic. This YouTube channel, these live streams are only for schizophrenic lunatics like myself. Do you dare to practice generosity? Do you dare to see through appearances of conceptual thought? So if you go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, and you say, hey, look, boss, I'm going through it. I'm a schizophrenic lunatic. Well, they're probably going to give you some SSRI research chemicals. But if you come here and you say, hey, I'm a schizophrenic lunatic, I'm going to say that's a great insight. I is schizophrenic. The notion of I, the notion of a separate self, the notion of any kind of separation is schizophrenic. This place is here to challenge and to invite. To challenge ignorance and attachment, and to invite mindful generosity, mindful giving of whatever you are holding on to. Well, go see a doctor. Seems like you need a psychiatrist, JP. So that's what I'd recommend. This place is a place of giving and generosity. It's not here as an entertainment. So if you have money, give money. If you have properties, give properties. If you have lands, give lands. If you have material possessions, give material possessions. If you have a body and mind, give that. It's not a place for entertainment. Whatever you have, give that away. Put that down. Renounce that. And if you don't have this spirit and practice of generosity, of self-sacrifice, of renunciation in the here and now, then your words are probably just going to be, you're going to think they're coming from here, but they're actually coming from your rear end. Something you ate last night. Maybe you had a difficult, went to a restaurant, they didn't have good grade from the health board, but you wanted to go there anyway. And now you think that you're sharing something of value. You're actually sharing something you're trying to get away from. That's not based in your direct experience now. So you have to dare to give up and to give away and to share out whatever it is that you're attached to so that you can establish your awareness on what is already. That's not based on attaching to anything. Oh, it's very sweet, Juna. Thank you. Very kind. Some kind of, a money stack. Great. Very nice. Very sweet. Thank you. And my experience, I'll share here with the people who are here. My experience is that this is my ego talking, my identity talking. I need community. I need a reason to show up and give and to share and concern myself with the path. And it needs to be accessible, it needs to be consistent, and it needs to have depth. So, that led me to, before I even knew that I needed those things, or I just knew it in a very small way, that led me in 2014 to go and live for a year at a Zen meditation center in New Mexico as a resident, as a full-time meditator and volunteer. And then in 2018, once I kind of got my dream world experience of my materialistic life, my ego life, based on materialism, based on getting pleasure and avoiding pain, I realized that that wasn't freedom, that that was a constant, compulsive action and reaction based on avoidance and pleasure seeking. So I said, well, I've got to give all this up. And I did that in an arrogant and ignorant way, to where I tried to be a monk on my own. You know, I tried to renounce my life on my own and just kind of wander in the United States with my 2017 Camry with tinted windows and subwoofers. You know, by the end of that experience, I had completely burnt myself out, because I didn't have a community built around limitless generosity, concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, concerned with doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment. I didn't have that. So that whole dream of getting out of the materialistic life in this egoic and ignorant and arrogant way, it totally burned me out. And I found myself, you know, living with my grandparents towards, you know, later in 2018. And, you know, I was at the edge of my rope, and I couldn't take care of my spiritual practice. I couldn't take care of my path. And I found out there's Buddhist countries. I see the Wikipedia page is stained, is burned into my mind when I saw that there were Buddhist countries. Wikipedia Buddhist countries: Thailand, 98%. Cambodia, Myanmar, 98%, 99%. I said, well, Buddhism's about monks, right? The monks are the ones who do the Buddhism. So I got on Facebook and I searched for Bhante. Later I became a Bhante, but you know, I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even know what a monk was. And I messaged those Bhantes and said, hey, you know, I've got this experience. I want to become a monk. And they were open and supportive. So I flew to Thailand. I ordained. I became a monk. And, you know, began this journey up until now, to, you know, where now I can actually access that motivation, access that community experience and situation in a very accessible and natural way, just through going live here on YouTube, and be that for other people, as well as be that invitation to getting more serious in your spiritual life. But what I realized, and what I know that many of my community members have realized, or some of them, or the Sangha here, not mine, I'm just kind of in a position of responsibility, which has its positives and its negatives, but that the spiritual life is not about all or nothing. It's not about black or white. You don't have to go and become a monk or a nun and live that way for the rest of your life. You can do that, but rather that it's a message of accessibility with more support than you can take, with more robustness than you can take. And then you get to determine for yourself, you know, how do I want to make use of this overwhelming support, this overwhelming generosity, this overwhelming resource of the path, the realization of the path, and the community of people concerned with the path and the realization of the path. The way that the Buddha, this is one of my favorite early Buddhist suttas called the Bahiya Sutta. And the way that the Buddha talks about it is kind of like this. You may continue seeing, you may continue hearing, you may continue feeling things in your body, and you may have more or less attachment to those things, right? But the training and the practice is specifically to be aware of that thought as just that thought without conceiving about it. Be aware of that sight or that seeing just as it is without conceiving more about it. The same with the sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and mental experiences. And this is the training of the Buddha, so without the, this is my view, this is my personal position on it. Without that context of the Sangha, without that context of the sustained Buddhist community up until now, it's very difficult to get a realistic sense of how practical this teaching is in all aspects of life, how absolute this teaching is. So the relative supports the absolute supports the relative, and that's specifically what Buddhism and the Buddhist Sangha is all about. If you don't have that lived experience, that real connection, that concern with the realization of the living Sangha, the living community of well-minded practitioners who are concerned with all this, the teachings are just they're based on a self-fixated life rather than a life that has seen the view of accessible renunciation of self in all aspects. And in some ways, we need that to determine how far we want to go, because it is all or nothing. The Buddha didn't give that teaching because he's a Pilates instructor or a yoga instructor giving you an exercise for stretching out your calves. The Buddha is teaching this because that is in accord with the way that things are. And that is in accord with the path to realizing the way that things actually are. And Guru Padmasambhava is, sometimes Guru Padmasambhava is talking about this, oh my gosh, non-thought is nibbana, thought is samsara. And then you get into this position where people are saying they're Buddhist, or people are saying they're Buddhist teachers with some degree of realization, but they don't actually seem to be practicing that or have much real experience with that. And that's going to be most Western Buddhists as well, and most Buddhists in the world, but specifically Western. So it's interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon to find ourselves concerned with this path. Do you have any questions? The Dharma is a thought to end thoughts. If we're just saying that the mind is a clear blue sky, well, that's just a thought. If we're experiencing, if we're realizing the clarity of the mind as a blue sky, there's no thought in that. If we take a look at a little bit of okay, here we go. You know, and the monk, I got this shirt in Thailand. It wasn't very expensive. But the monk that we were listening to, really my style right now, after being a monk for 7 years, is kind of like a homeless person. Homeless person with some clothes is how I would describe my style. Just some things that I've picked up at different shops to cover my body since not being a monk anymore, a couple of months ago. The monk, this venerable master Poha Sunim, who we were listening to together, an incredible Korean Zen master, and you know, he talked about his teacher giving him instructions before he came to America to teach Zen. And his teacher said, look, don't try to get followers. Don't try to get students. Think about how many students or followers an ant has. And, you know, this is the problem. We're very taken in by images and appearances, and just because someone has a following or seems to be well regarded by a lot of people, the only thing that means is that they're a good advertiser, or they've got a good social media team. Doesn't really mean anything else besides that. And you know, we have to look in ourselves how we practice that by trying to get a lot of pleasurable or idealistic experiences. And this kind of goes to your question that was just asked about the clear blue sky. So when the mind rests in a state of void, will that not entail some attachment to void? Answer, if you think of your mind as resting in a state of void, then there will be such an attachment. Question, when the mind reaches this state of non-dwelling upon anything and continues in that state, will there not be some attachment to its not dwelling upon anything? And this is the teaching here. No more questions and answers. So long as your mind is fixed solely on void, there is nothing to which you can attach yourself. If you want to understand the non-dwelling mind very clearly, while you are actually sitting in meditation, you must be cognizant only of the mind and not permit yourself to make judgments. That is, you must avoid evaluations of what you're experiencing. So when practicing the meditation, you must avoid evaluations in terms of good, evil, right, wrong, or anything else. Whatever is past, so do not sit in judgment upon it. For when minding about the past ceases of itself, it can be said that there is no longer any past. Whatever in the future is not here yet, so do not direct your hopes and longings towards it. For when minding about the future ceases of itself, it can be said that there is no future. Whatever is present is now at hand. Just be conscious of your non-attachment to anything, or your willingness to practice non-attachment to anything. Everything. Non-attachment in the sense of not allowing any love or aversion for anything to enter your mind. For when minding the present ceases of itself, we may say that there is no present as well. When there is no clinging to any of those three periods, they may be said to not exist. This is a part of the revolutionary perspective here, that what is there is conditionally there, and what is not there at all. It's not actually there. When it's there, that thought, that memory, that person, that idea, that conceptual framework for experience in your life and the world and different countries and places and people and situations and experiences and all the rainbow of thinking, okay? When it's there, it's conditionally there and it's impermanent. But what is not there at all. This is the samurai sword meeting the neck of the common folk. This is the Excalibur blade. Adjusting the mind to reality. What is not there now is not there. And what arises, what is there, is conditional. Okay. When memory and reverie are cut off, past and future cease to exist. The present does, of course, exist in a firmer sense than either of the others, but it is not present except when thought of in relation to past and future. The state of mind of an illumined person is independent of time relationships. So when we are enlightened, we experience reality, the mind experiences reality free from the notion of time, free from the notion of past, present, or future. So the present seems to be more relevant or important or there than the past or the future, but that present is only there in terms of past and future. So when past and future exist, the present returns to dissolution, regardless of what that phenomena was, regardless of what that thought was, regardless of what that thing was, or that experience was or is. Should your mind wander away, do not follow it, whereupon your wandering mind will stop wandering of its own accord. Should your mind desire to linger somewhere, do not follow it and do not dwell there, whereupon your mind's questing for a dwelling place will cease of its own accord. Thereby you will come to possess a non-dwelling mind. So if your mind wanders away, don't follow that. If your mind desires to stay somewhere or to stay in some experience, do not stay there. So the point here is that the wandering mind and the mind's desire to stick onto one place will evaporate on its own. It will stop on its own. Thereby you will come to possess a non-dwelling mind, a mind which remains in the state of non-dwelling. So not someone to be there at all, not someone who has a mind, not someone who's using a mind, not someone who's perceiving objects in the mind. We have a question or a comment? What's this? Twin flames. Let's see, what's twin flames? Twin flames, awakening, meaning. Just New Age spiritualism. No, just nonsense. Just stupid nonsense. Okay? But if it helped you start your awakening, then you can realize that for yourself. It's just nothing. All time, in all time, it just is or isn't. So basically, if you're comfortable, you become the stone, and in discomfort, you learn to wield the blade. I think there's some good point in that, Alicia. All time, in all time, it just is or isn't. Well, it appears to be, or it appears to not be. So it appears to be some particular way right now, or it appears not to be some particular way right now. But both of those are just appearances. And so the teaching here is not to cling to those appearances. So if you just don't cling to those appearances of it appears to be this way or it appears to not be this way, then appearances end, appearances cease. And then the mind of not dwelling in appearances takes root. Does the heart appear in the mind more than vice versa? There's no duality here. The heart is just the heart, the mind is just the mind, everything is just everything. These are just different objects. There's no such thing as a heart, there's no such thing as a mind, there's no such thing as a body, there's no such thing as an environment. These are just objects of appearances. The heart appears and disappears, but it's not really there. The thought appears and disappears, but it's not really there. It's like going outside and a group of people are all kind of just hanging out there, generally aware. They're not enlightened, but they're generally aware and just kind of hanging out. And then you go out there and scream and look, there's a cloud. And then everyone focuses on that cloud and looks at it, and it disappears. So where did that cloud come from? And where does it disappear to? And what is it that you're seeing at that moment? It's just an appearance. Even though it's quote unquote really there, it's just an appearance. And it's an appearance of no self. It's an appearance of impermanence. It's an appearance of ungraspability, unworthiness of grasping, unsatisfactory. Who are all these people who are here? Let's get some W's in the chat, everybody. If you are fully aware in yourself of a non-dwelling mind, you will discover that there is just the fact of dwelling, with nothing to dwell upon or not to dwell upon. This full awareness in yourself of a mind dwelling upon nothing is known as having a clear perception of your own mind, or in other words, as having a clear perception of your own nature. A mind which dwells upon nothing is the Buddha mind, the mind of one already delivered, Bodhi mind, uncreate mind. It is also called realization that the nature of all appearances is unreal. It is this which the sutras call patient realization of the uncreate. If you have not realized it yet, you must strive and must increase your exertions. Then, when your efforts are crowned with success, you will have attained to understanding from within yourself. An understanding stemming from a mind that abides nowhere, by which we mean a mind free from delusion and reality alike. A mind disturbed by love and aversion is deluded. A mind free from both of them is real. And a mind thus freed reaches the state in which opposites are seen as void, whereby freedom and deliverance are obtained. Okay? Now, this point here about there is no mind, there is no heart. Let's exercise this. Let's work this out. Through no self, or through interbeing. So no self and interbeing are two ways of the same pointer. So the heart existing here and now is dependent upon the mind, or let's say the brain. Let's keep it physical. Same pointer, same teaching. The heart is dependent upon the brain. The brain is independent or dependent upon the heart. So if you say that this heart is something separate from the brain, that's not actually true. That's not real. So this is the unreality of the heart as a separate self-object. So you can say that everything inter-is. And in the inter-isness of everything, there are no separate self-entities. That the very notion of a separate self-entity actually existing in reality is flawed, is a misperception, is a misaligned view, a wrong view. And how to understand the wrongness of the view is in terms of practicality, because if the foundation of your approach is based in a misperception of the way that things are, you may go very, very far in that approach, but you will only go as far as that misperception allows you to go. So no misperception is limitless. And how far you, or the absence of you, can go in that is also limitless. But a misperception is based in the limit of the perceived. Whereas non-misperception is not based in perception. It's based in the way that things actually are. So an illumined mind, or a mind without delusion, is stemming from and returning to non-misperception. Whereas a deluded mind is stemming from and returning to misperception, or the mind of an illumined or unillumined persona, an appearance. So a lot of the actions that we may take are based on internal misperceptions, are based on our lack of illumination. So when someone has a little bit of illumination or is a little bit enlightened, there will correspondingly be a protection against unskillful activities, because the misperception of a separate self that can have more peace or have more freedom by seeking desire and avoiding pain will be correspondingly lessened to the degree of illumination. Whereas someone who has a very high or even complete degree of illumination, like let's say the Buddha, in that case, it's not that they can't do something, but that it doesn't arise for them to do that thing, because there's no misperception about the nature of what causes suffering and what doesn't cause suffering. So it's not that they can't do something, or even that they're making choices to do or not do something. It's simply a matter of the illumined quality of the human body and mind that has a complete clarity about the wish to not suffer, which is all living beings have this wish to not suffer. Now, are we to make this kind of effort concerned with the truth of an illumined mind and the way that things actually are, okay? To free the mind from love and aversion, from seeking towards and seeking away from, avoidance. That is to seek, to make effort to realize that a mind disturbed by love and aversion is deluded. A mind free from both of them is real. And a mind thus freed reaches the state in which opposites are seen as void, whereby freedom and deliverance are obtained. Question, so this is the question. Are we to make this effort only when we are sitting in meditation or doing our sadhana, or also when we are walking about, when we are out and about in our daily life? Mazu says, when I spoke just now of making an effort, I did not mean only when you are sitting in meditation. For whether you are walking, standing, sitting, lying, or whatever you are doing, you must uninterruptedly exert yourselves all the time. This is what we call constantly abiding in that state. All right, listen to this. I'm going to go into this here. The Vaipula Sutra says, of the 5 kinds of Dharmakaya, okay, the Dharmakaya is that aspect of the Buddhas in which they are undifferentiated from the Absolute. Hence, it cannot really be divisible into 5 kinds. The 5 kinds, 5 different names here are for the one Dharmakaya as seen in relation to 5 different functions or from 5 different points of view. Okay? So in Buddhism we have the word end. And a lot of people have forgot the reality of the word end. Something can be good and bad. Something can be pleasurable and painful. Something can be right and wrong. And then we get to the absolute. In the relative, end is everywhere. In the absolute, we can add nor. Neither. And nor neither. No discrimination, no separation. And also, we've forgotten the words, this is just my view. This is just my opinion. This is just a thought that I had. So generosity is always extremely important. So question, the Vaipula Sutra says, of the 5 kinds of Dharmakaya, the first is the Dharmakaya of the Absolute. The second is the Dharmakaya of merit. The third is the Dharmakaya of the Dharma nature. The Dharmakaya of infinite manifestations is the 4th, and the Dharmakaya of the void is the 5th. Which one is our own body? This is the question to Mazu. Very, 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 woo, woo, woo. Choo-choo train to freedom land. This is the conductor. So I'm just conveying what I can convey. But we're all blessed to be in the context, to be concerned with Venerable Master Mazu. To comprehend that mind is imperishable is to possess the Dharmakaya of the Dharma nature. So this isn't our, well, it's not separate from, but it's talking in a deeper sense about the mind of awareness itself. So the mind in which all of your identity thoughts arise from who knows where, and all of your identity thoughts abide in who knows where, and return to and disappear into who knows where, right? This is the mind of the clear blue sky, going back to that good point. So to comprehend that mind is imperishable is to possess the Dharmakaya of the Dharma nature. So this clear blue sky mind is imperishable. It cannot end, just in the same way that it cannot begin, nor can it abide anywhere. To comprehend that all the myriad forms are contained in mind is to possess the Dharmakaya of merit. To comprehend that mind is not mind is to possess the Dharmakaya of the true nature of all. To comprehend that mind is not mind is to possess the Dharmakaya of the true nature of all. To teach living beings according to their individual capacities for conversion is to possess the Dharmakaya of infinite manifestation. So what is this conversion? This is the punch in the gut to facilitate the ending of violence. The conversion to mindfulness and detachment. What do we have here? All appearance